Hello, I'm Simon. Welcome back to my workshop. Now, the weather has been pretty bad in the UK. It's very hot, very little rain, and about a third of my plants have died. So I'm going to make something for the garden for next year. I'm going to make an obelisk, and I'm going to use wood that I had left over from my green roof bin shelter build. So let's get tinkering. So let me take you through the lumber that I'm using. I've got this piece of 3 metre, that's about 3 yards, 9 feet, CLS lumber, 3x2. This board, which is going to form the horizontal parts of my obelisk. And because I don't think I've got enough with just this piece, I've got a few scraps. The first thing I need to do is to cut this piece of 3x2 into two 1.5 metre, that's 4 foot roughly, 4.5 foot lengths. I'm using my thin strip push block, and I've set it like this so that it can't move because I've got a very long piece, and I'm going to push it through this gap here using my feather boards until I get to about here. I'll then probably turn the machine off, pull this out, slide this the other way, and then use this to push it all the way through. I've set up this little jig. I've got a dog here just stopping them from going any further. A couple of dogs here with some wedges. And then the insides are pushed against these two dogs, again with a couple of wedges. What that gives me here is 18 inches across the base, and it's 5 foot tall. That to me looks about the right proportions. I can move these dogs down and squeeze it in further if I wanted, or move the dogs up and squeeze it out again. But I'm going to keep it like that because I quite like the dimensions of that. For those of you interested, it's 14.2 degrees. I don't want the bottom one to be at the very bottom, so I'm just going to use my square, the handle on the square, to mark up the position that I want the first one to go. That'll just give me an easy way of marking both sides. Now with everything set out, I can mark the angles on here that I need to cut. I'm going to cut these manually on the bandsaw. Now using this piece as a template, I'm going to mark up the other 3 that I need. And now I'll cut out the remaining 3 on the bandsaw. Using the angle I marked out earlier, I'm going to cut some wedges. I'm now going to make a little jig with these tiny tacks. I've just put this piece on top of the jig, and I've got this piece which I'm going to lay on top of the jig as well. I'm going to line it up and I'm going to press it in. Hopefully I've made a little mark on here and a little mark on here that corresponds to each other. When I was working this design through, I decided I didn't want to have screws coming this way and have an ugly screw on the outside, and also the screw going into this end grain isn't a very good connection. So I decided I was going to glue it, and I would use some small dowels just to sort of register everything. How well that'll work with time I'm not sure, but that's the approach I'm going to take. Test stick works nicely. This one might be a bit tricky, it's going right in the middle of a knot. I'll now assemble these together. I'm making this a lot harder for myself using dowels, but I think it'll be worth it. This one's a little bit too fiddly to do using the little jig that I made, so I'm going to mark it out. So I've added masking tape just to keep this at this edge. I'm just going to drill straight down. Now I've lined these lines up on this side with the lines that I'd made, and I'm going to use this as a template to drill through the other piece. I've pushed the dowels all the way through, and now we'll see if we can assemble it. Perfect. Now that I've dry assembled the top and the bottom, I can mark out the next two horizontal slats. Mark this next horizontal bar a third of the way up. I'm going to cut one, and then I'll use that as a pattern to cut the rest. I then did the same for the top 4 spars. I then marked everything out using the jig I'd made earlier and drilled all the holes for the dowels. So I have a dry fit of my first side, and I can now go on and glue this up. This is my first A-frame assembled. Now I'm going to use this once it's dry as a template to assemble another one. I then laid out the next one on top and repeated the assembly process. I just now need to make it into a pyramid using the other parts that I created. I glue and clamp everything up, and then I wipe all the excess glue down with a damp cloth. Assembling everything is pretty straightforward. I don't know if this bit on the top looks good or stupid. Let me know in the comments what you think. I give everything 2 coats of garden paint left over from a previous project. I did think when I started building this that there would be quite a lot of compound angles to build a pyramid, but it turns out there aren't. And if you build the 2 sides first, like I showed, and then connect them with the same size pieces, you'll end up with a pyramid. And it's actually pretty easy to do. So why not give it a go? All I've used is really one 3-metre piece of 3x2 and some scraps, which is a very cheap way of getting a garden obelisk, which I'm sure would cost quite a lot of money if you went to the garden centre, and it probably wouldn't be made as well. I'm off now to put this in my garden. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.